Let's come back to net negative world in a moment's time. I just kind of want to just hit on what you were just saying before, and what the question I asked is kind of, I feel like it's some sort of like step function where you have theism playing in the sort of omni space, and atheism saying that there is no evidence that there is any god of any description, and then you have these other sort of categories, pantheism, panentheism, and others as well. I'm aware there are plenty more, but it's almost like, depending on the story that you're telling yourself about the intentionality that is evident within our world, you're going to either say that's a purely materialistic, physicalistic, naturalistic process where there's no divine intervention whatsoever, or you're going to tell yourself a story all the way up a ladder, or steps, all the way to there is a theistic the tri-omni God who is instantiating the world, and then you've got the challenge of things like the problem of evil and other things that are going to kind of be hampering you around. And I think it's just kind of, I don't want it to be personal preferences, but I feel like most of the time it just boils down to which pill you're going to be able to swallow more easily. Like, you can take the red pill or the blue pill or the one in between, and that's why people kind of begin to make these decisions rather than us actually knowing anything. It's all hypothetical. Yeah.
I think that's exactly right. That's again why there was a time when I remember Eugene Nagasawa saying, "Andrei, do you describe yourself as a pantheist?" This was 2017 or something, and I said yes. And then after I said that, I was like, "Nah, not really." I was just like, what I mean by that is I think this is the most plausible picture, right? If there's something we can, right? If the term God picks anything out, my thought was it's going to be some sort of pantheistic account, right, of divinity. But there's a big if there, right? So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, there's going to be these pills you're going to have to swallow. You're going to bite bullets, right? And you know, I think that the bullets that you bite, if you accept pantheism as being the most plausible conception of divinity, are far fewer and less painful in certain respects. But yeah, that raises a question about whether or not you have something that, for all intents and purposes, is any different from just straight up atheism, right? And I could say something about that, but I will just say, I could say more than what I'm going to say right now. But I do think there is a big difference, and one of those just ends up being something that's, again, axiological, if you will, right? It has to do with value, right? Which would be, right, if the universe displays, if it's an organic unity, then that's something valuable. That's cool. I mean, that something exists as an organic unity, like we find with a mind. I see that as being a state of affairs that's worth valuing, right? It's a fitting, again, response would be one of valuing that state of affairs and preferring that state of affairs over one where it's not an organic unity. And so, so that seems to me to then be sort of like, again, a proper difference between the pantheist and the straight up atheist, is that the pantheist, I think, is going to say that the universe is this way, right, is something that, right, would be a good making feature of the universe, right? And it would make it an overall better state of affairs, as a totality state of affairs, right? It would be an overall better state of affairs than one where it doesn't exhibit that kind of unity, right?
Yeah.
And so now I think that becomes a watershed difference. Now then, there are these other watershed differences between, right, pantheism and panentheism, and right, and some of these we just talked about, right, which is right, again, sort of the, you know, whether or not there is something like an architect, right, who's doing, right, some sort of work here, and an architect that's standing either completely outside of or not entirely, not identical with, at least, right, this thing, which is the universe, right? So
yeah, like that database table that I was mentioning before. If you enjoyed this clip, head on over to Locals to watch the full conversation right now. Supporters can access the video version, and everyone can freely listen to the audio-only version of the conversation. If you're on YouTube or Rumble, please like, subscribe, and then hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a new episode. I'll catch you next time. Cheers.